Oceans. We're a group of around 17 homeschooling kids, and we're taking the ocean crisis into our own hands. And so we each have our different subjects. Some have corals, some actually have acidification in warming waters. Like I have sharks, and they all portray into our subject, which is human impact on our oceans. And just researching again about like how sharks, they are affected by global warming waters. Their immune systems get messed up, as well as other fish that die off because of it, as well as also it affects us, especially in poor countries where they depend on the seafood life and fish to survive, so it also affects us. And my question is, if we have the unlikely chance of not succeeding, the acidification and warming waters, what will be like your next steps, and what will you do?
So, thank you for that question. First of all, having heard from these four and her, I think it's incumbent on everyone in the audience to never again complain about, kids today. Did remind you that they're sort of ahead of the game, The ocean, I met a bunch of your crew earlier today, and they're great. The oceans we forget, because we're terrestrial creatures, that we live on an ocean planet, okay? 70% of our planet is seawater. And one of the things that we forget is that we really can affect it in the deepest ways. When I was writing Into Nature 30 years ago, it hadn't occurred to anybody that we could acidify the world's oceans. They seemed much too large for anything to affect their chemistry. But we put so much carbon in the atmosphere, as you know, that it's absorbed by the top layers of the ocean, and its pH is dropping fast. It is acidifying. And it is warming. I was in with our crew in the South Pacific this spring, our spring, their fall, when this wave of warm water swept across the Pacific and in the Indian Oceans. And in a lot of places, it killed 80% of the coral inside of 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, stuff that's been there for, well, as long as anybody knows about it, it's been there. Now it is not. So the questions that you raise are the most powerful. And it is too late to prevent a certain amount of that damage. That's just the truth, and I wish it were otherwise. Well, our job at this point is to keep it from getting worse than it has to get, to keep it from getting completely out of control. Okay? Which the best science indicates we still have a narrow window to do, but it's narrow and it's closing. That's why we have to work fast. In a just world, you wouldn't have to think about or deal with any of this for a while. You go on doing the kind of things that I was doing when I was your age, which were considerably less enlightened than the things you're doing. But you do have to, because we have to move with real speed. And I think that if we move with that speed, we retain some chance of keeping things from utterly disintegrating. You asked the question in just the right way, because one of the things that we need to keep reminding people is there's nothing radical about what any of us are asking for. Exactly the opposite. All we're asking for is a world that works a little bit like the one that we knew for the last 10,000 years, and really longer than that. Sharks are one of the most ancient creatures on the planet, right? They go back tens of millions of years in their evolution. And it would be nice to have a planet that still had some ice at the poles, some coral reefs in the tropics, some sharks to swim on the ocean. That's not a radical request to make. That's, if you think about it, a deeply conservative request to make, okay? Radicals work at oil companies. If you're willing to get up in the morning and make your fortune by altering the chemical composition of the atmosphere, once scientists have told you what it will do, and once you've watched it start to happen, if you're willing to keep doing that, then you are a radical on a scale that we have not encountered on this planet before. And our job together is to figure out how to check that radicalism and keep it from overwhelming every good thing on this planet, including sharks.
Also, just to add, to get more information about our project, because we're also making a documentary, so it's Heirs to Our Oceans, so that's H-E-I-R, like heirs, because we're going to inherit it, and you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you.
Yeah.